Houston, we typically have a problem, but this week we've got a golf tournament. Let's head over to the 2026 Houston Open. Welcome back to the 19th hole, everybody. Jake here, as always, joined by my friend Mike. Mike, how are we doing this week?
I'm doing great. Fresh off spring break. Didn't really catch a ton of the Valspar. Did catch a little on the airplane on the way home, but excited to get back into golf action.
Yeah, it was a good tournament. It was fun. We'll talk about it as always here in a minute. But it's good to hear that you had a good spring break. You caught some of it on the plane. Sounds like you were spending some time with your family. And what better family is there? I mean, blood family is one thing, but the IBT Golf family is where it's at. The IBT Golf family is our brand new chance to gain access to chatting with our analysts, our free memorabilia giveaways, as well as potentially our full betting cards. Our free membership gains you access to the chats, memorabilia giveaways, and contests, such as our one and done contest. Speaking of our one and done contest, my brother continues to take the lead here. We got Royal Slate in second at 2.4 million, Timbo Slice at just a hair over 2 million. Mike, you are creeping up the leaderboards there, sitting at a cool 1.6 million. Trash sitting at 1.4. Gopher at 1.3. Tony at 1.1. Myself at just a hair over a million. Jed at 534K. Seth and everybody else sub 440. We got to step our game up to catch my brother because he is officially starting to make me look bad. But it makes the family look good, and we take that. But on the note of the family, for $3.99 per month or $36 for the year, you get access to our exclusive weekly betting model, as well as our full golf betting cards and picks for the week. And this also gains you access to our football family, racing family, and entertainment family. So make sure to check out all of that. And speaking of things that you should check out, we officially have our own YouTube channel over here at the 19th hole. So make sure you subscribe to this new channel. We've got some short form content coming your way really, really soon on top of the standard tournament breakdowns and everything that we've got over here. I know Mike and I are very excited about that. But speaking of this channel, make sure you check out this episode's description where you can subscribe to the channel. And it also includes the link for the golf family in dashbetweenmedia.com/chat. But Mike, we want to talk about golf, right? So let's waste no time doing that, and let's get right into the news. You got to talk about cutting it close every once in a while in the game of golf. And for Jordan Gumberg, he cut it about as close as you can. For those who don't know, Jordan Gumberg was the winner of the Hanan Classic this past weekend on the DP World Tour. Jordan Gumberg was in position to not even have a card for this year, to have to go through requalification process for the DP World Tour. And on his final hole of the 2025 season, hold out for eagle to essentially clinch his card basically by one shot. If he had made birdie, he may not have retained his card. The eagle locked up the card for him, and he was able to take home a win. And I think it's fairly safe to say that nobody really saw this coming. You look at the last calendar year for Gumberg, and it's understandable why he needed to hole out for eagle to retain his card. Quite a few miscuts on the PGA Tour, the DP World Tour. He does have a T7 in there at the Genesis Championship. However, even to start 2026, string of miscuts in Dubai, a T42, a miscut in South Africa, T28 a couple weeks or at the beginning of March, and then he comes out of nowhere and wins it, basically securing his spot for yet another year. That's essentially what one gets you, at minimum gets you exemptions into a ton of tournaments. But Mike, we always talk, we love talking about the journeyman on here. So it felt only appropriate to start the show out by a guy who quite literally could not have cut it any closer.
I have a lot of questions. I probably should have done a little more prep on the exact numbers here, but this guy played a lot of golf tournaments in 2025. and he missed a lot of the cuts. I'm actually kind of shocked that a T7 via hole out for Eagle on the last hole was enough to even keep a card. And also, given his stat profile, there's a lot of red on his data golf profile. So it is a great question, but this is what is so wonderful about golf, and it's what I find the PGA Tour still hasn't gotten right, and some of the other tours are starting to get it, is how to expose these stories of guys living on the edge. And how many times we've talked about wanting like a separate feed on the PGA Tour of just guys that are on the cut line on Friday afternoon. These are the stories. Like, there's a couple of Twitter accounts out there that are dedicated to this kind of stuff. Monday Q Info being probably the foremost, but these are the stories that are so fun to surface. And then all of a sudden you turn around and win on DP World Tour this year. This guy's going to change his life. And that's what's so much fun about golf and professional golf, is the pipe dream never ends.
Yep. Yeah. And so I did a quick count here. And if my math is right, he played around 35 tournaments last year.
That's a big
So basically,
schedule.
like playing as many tournaments as he possibly can and missed the cut in over half of them.
How is that even enough to keep your card?
I guess it was, earlier on in the season, he did have some solid finishes. In the 2025 season, he had a T16, T17. So he had a handful of top 20s. I think part of it though is just like, I don't know. Do you get points if you miss the cut? Like, I don't know how their point system works. So maybe just playing as much as he did, that's probably part of why he played as frequently as he did. But I mean, the guy made it on the point line to retain his card.
Yeah,
so
crazy.
Truly by the skin of his teeth. But we always like to shout out the fun journeyman stories over there. So great to see for Jordan Gumberg over there. On kind of the flip side, two guys who are not cutting it close, two absolute titans of the game. When you talk about modern golf, these two guys will come up in every conversation. We had the mad scientist versus John Rahm-bo this past weekend, and the mad scientist took the win this time. Brains over brawn, even though the brainy guy is a little brawny, depending on the day. But I mean, with the Masters coming up, I feel it's very important to talk about these two guys coming into the, few weeks out from the Masters, just in incredible form. With Jon Rahm, we're talking about a guy who had a stretch of tournaments that was 5 straight, now 6 straight tournaments, essentially, with second, 4 of those finishes are second place runner-up finishes, 1 win and a T5. Like, the dude is on an absolute heater. And yes, he has the win in there. Yes, it's the LIV Tour. But if you look at who's won on LIV since their transition to 4-round tournaments, it's Bryson with back-to-back wins. It's Jon Rahm and then Anthony Kim.
Yeah.
But I think this was a great step for LIV to truly exemplify like who the best golfers on their tour are, because they're getting consistent results in these 4-round tournaments when other players simply aren't.
I think the challenge that they're going to run into, the yin and the yang to this is, yes, it's now going to elevate the best golfers, who we kind of already knew who that was.
Right.
It is going to suppress the worst golfers that LIV has been amassing by the dozens, and removing the volatility from the field over 4 rounds. This is the result. You get your 2 stars, or 2 of your few stars, winning on a weekly basis. And, it's unfortunate because I love watching both these guys play golf. I don't watch LIV. I don't even know how to watch LIV anymore. And so I am only seeing this through
on TBS.
a few highlights on my social feed, and maybe a major outlet that picks up the results. So it's unfortunate. And I think when you talk about the Masters, it's really hard for me to understand how this is going to match up with the golf that I do watch. But if you're not paying attention to LIV and what these guys are doing, you are exactly right. They are both on a ridiculous tear right now, and it's going to make betting the next 3 months of golf really, really fun.
It is. Like, Seth and I talked about it when Seth filled in on the show last week. Like, a Rahm-bo top 5 is still paying out plus money.
Are you retiring yet based on all the money you've made on Jon Rahm top 5 the last month?
I'm not retiring. but like I can buy more Pokemon cards. Like we're chilling. But, you know, he's like we said, you know, that stretch of golf, no matter what level of competition you're playing, like you take great golfers and put them in member guest tournaments and they're struggling to rattle off as many runner-up and win finishes as John Rahm-bo and Bryson, the mad scientist DeChambeau, have put together. Plus, I mean, they both have really awesome like wrestling names. The mad
When you
scientist
put
and
them
John
that way,
Rahm-bo.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
come
Well,
on.
so
I was just happy I could find a
buckle
picture of both of them.
Buckle up. Yeah, they're both about 30 pounds lighter there, I think, in that banner. But yeah, buckle up. It's gonna be really fun getting those guys in the mix at Augusta in a couple of weeks here.
Yeah, I mean, Bryson won this tournament basically on the heels of the putter and the driver. Didn't really do much with the wedges, lost strokes with the irons, which, you know, he's certainly not going to be happy about. But to go 26 under on any golf course over 4 rounds is insane. You have to play phenomenal golf all throughout to do so. So again, with the Masters coming up, knowing we're going to see both of these guys, you know, come major season here, it's exciting at the minimum to see both of these guys, you know, gaining some steam. And perfect transition. Again, I'm so good at setting myself up with these segues. They should call me Paul Blart the Mall Cop. But speaking of a guy who had been picking up steam, Matt Fitzpatrick, he finds Paydirt. He gets his win after being so close so many times this year. It felt like, you know, bouncing back off of a rough loss at the Players, you know, picking up a win on the PGA Tour for the first time since I'm fact checking this myself. 2023.
Yeah, RBC.
Yep. I thought I miswrote. I typed the wrong number there for a second. So I had to fact check myself live. But Fitzy, again, playing some phenomenal golf this year. You know, this is his third top 10 finish, first win of the year, obviously. But I mean, it was the Matt Fitzpatrick that we've seen for most of this year. We saw it again this tournament. Dude has turned himself into an incredible driver of the golf ball, gaining distance and accuracy on the field off the tee. You and I both we've watched a lot of golf from Matt Fitzpatrick, and I don't think anybody could have predicted this going into 2026.
Can I spend a few minutes here talking about Matt Fitzpatrick's feet?
Absolutely.
You're right. He has added a ton of distance. And we know that he's a bit neurotic when it comes to tracking his stats and how he conducts himself. I mean, he's definitely not a physical specimen, but I trust he is doing everything with what his God-given physique is to put himself in the best position to be a professional athlete. But he is doing something very specific with his lower body and specifically his feet to generate an extra however many miles per hour of swing speed and ball speed and translating that into yards. And it's so specific that it's something that I have tried to work into my game even before Fitz was doing this and getting some coverage for it. But it's something I see a lot of tour players do, especially Ludwig is another example. And that's releasing your left foot kind of back behind you and towards the target as you are descending into the driver. So on your downswing, right at impact, you will see his left foot. Now, Fitzpatrick is doing this in a very exaggerated way. Ludwig does it a little more subtly, but their left foot is actually moving several inches away from where it was planted. And I've been talking to a friend of mine about how to generate power. And I've been sending him, every time I see Fitz on TV, I've been sending him examples to say, look at how hard he is clearing his left side such that his foot is moving. Now, they got him on the slow-mo on, I don't know if it was NBC, of just actually zeroing in on his feet. And he's moving like a full foot. Like it's almost like his left foot is opening way up. And it is a move that everybody that's listening to this show, I think really think about how to generate a few more miles per hour is really snapping that left side, and you don't have your foot doesn't have to stay there. I mean, Scottie Scheffler, best player in the world, his feet go all over the place. So watch Fitzy next time. This is like, it's super intentional. I'm guarantee it's a thing that he did in training regimen or in practice that he's just incorporated into his prime time swing, and he is flat out crushing the ball.
Yeah, it's a move that you see a lot of the long drivers. A lot of long drivers do a lot of the same thing. Most exaggerated version of that comes to mind is Kyle Berkshire, one of the best long drivers in the world. You know, a freak of nature, but he does the same thing. You know, it's the explosiveness. It's using your ground forces appropriately. It's, you know, snap loading your power package, whatever that whole spiel is. If you don't know the meme, look it up. It's hilarious. Just Google snap load your power package and you'll find it. But I mean, I do something similar. I think part of it for me, you know, baseball background, naturally, you know, our feet, they stay planted, but it's, you know, obviously a different sport, but a lot of the rotation goes in there. But if I'm not hitting my driver well, it's because I'm not using the ground.
Yeah. I tell people, like, as I was shoveling snow in Minneapolis a week ago, and I'm leaning into my left thigh to lift these shovels over the snowbank, I'm telling my buddies, like, those squats in the winter, you got to feel that left leg almost leaping off your heel right as you're making impact. That's where the power is going to come from, and so much that your foot can actually move. I also want to point out Matt Fitzpatrick's feet, and this is a question for you. Does this dude own like 100 pair of the exact same Skechers? Like, do they just make one golf shoe and Fitzy's got a whole closet full of them and he shows up with a trunk of yellow and white Skechers?
So I actually have some resources in the golf apparel industry. So I did reach out to this. It is not uncommon for players to bring multiple pairs of shoes, even the same shoes. Typically they travel with 2 or 3 pairs that they're comfortable in. But yeah, I feel like Skechers makes multiple models of golf shoes. I am not a Skechers aficionado in the shoe game.
I just feel like he's got one look.
Hey, it works. If it works, it works, right?
It
like,
works. Yeah.
We don't talk about it with other players though, but like half the guys out there wearing the same pair of white FootJoys all 4 days.
So that was my question though. It's like, I rarely wear the same shoe back-to-back rounds just because I don't know, want it to breathe or tighten up a little bit, or just, you know, but these guys who wear the same shoe the entire weekend, is it the exact same shoe, or do they just have same pairs of the same, or multiple pairs of the same colorway?
I would assume multiple pairs of the same colorway. Some of them may be, you know, they may bring one pair of that shoe that they wear during, I don't know, warm-ups or practice rounds as they're trying to break it in to get it as comfortable as they need to walk 18 holes. But I would imagine, you know, they probably get probably about, I would say, a month's worth of use probably before they replace them. I mean, they get them for free, right? Like, these guys have sponsorship agreements for apparel more often than not. So they're getting free stuff. If you're going to get free stuff, even if you give me free shoes, I'm still going to wear the crap out of the shoes, and I'm going to burn that shoe to the ground before I put on the new pair. Like, that's just what I am. I have like 6 pairs of the same white Vans, and I'm still on pair number 1. Until the sole falls off the shoe, I'm wearing it.
All right, right on. But
when I'm golfing, I do switch it up. I am partial to Jordan golf shoes. They are shockingly comfortable for me. And I have one pair that's like the Travis Scott golfs that are, you know, they basically are just Nike, like Nike Dunks with spikes on them. Yeah, they're pretty sweet. And then I've just got a pair that look like they should be like your classical golf shoe, but it also depends on the conditions. I'll wear the leather ones if I know it's going to be wet out or I'm playing early. If I'm wearing the one that are more tennis shoes, you know, I know it's going to be a nice day out. We're going to be vibing. We're probably going to the bars afterwards. I don't have to change shoes then.
Office to the course to the bar, single look, like that's a good move.
It's a vibe. And it's just, it saves you like what, 12 minutes of changing clothes. It's awesome. Anyways, we got sidetracked there, but shout out to Fitzy. Great win. Happy to have you in my card for a week where you win. I've been talking about you, I feel like, all year on this show. So thank you for finally coming through so I can start picking somebody else to focus in on. It's Jake Knapp. Jake Knapp, I'm looking at you. Please get a win, preferably this week. Speaking of this week, we should probably talk about this tournament. So let's head on over and get the caddy notes ready. As always, Mike, you know that I absolutely love the breakdowns that you put together for this portion of the episode. So why don't you go ahead and break down Memorial Park for us?
Yeah, Memorial Park Golf Course, Houston, Texas. This is one chance, a few times a year where we get to kind of get not, this isn't a municipal course like Torrey Pines is an actual municipal course, but this is a public golf course right in the heart of Houston, Texas. 124 years old. However, recently went through a renovation in 2019 by Tom Doak and one of our returning PGA stars, Brooks Koepka. And I do think that's really interesting because the renovation basically built it to be to Koepka's stat profile. yeah. And so it's great to have him back on tour because we've missed that the last couple of years. But basically, what you get is you get large undulating green complexes with tightly mown runoffs where Brooks has typically excelled. It's, we talk a lot about TPC Scottsdale, and I think that's a really good comp for this week. But this course is going to play hard. Brooks has that sort of, we talk about that bravado and really wants to challenge the golfers out there. So a lot of that comes through on the 7,400 yard par 71 golf course. Stark contrast to what we've got the last handful of weeks in Florida. Yep. Almost zero trouble on this golf course. Although Minwoo Lee was able to make things interesting on 18 last year as he was driving it completely off the map. But you only have water on 4 holes in this golf course, and you only have differing accounts, but 21 to 24 bunkers on this golf course.
Yep.
So really, it just plays brutally long, tough green complexes. And I think it's a really good tune-up for what we're going to expect in the next couple of weeks, especially out at Augusta, of really forcing players to play well with their long irons. They do have the ability to set up a couple of drivable par 4s coming down the stretch on 13 and 17 on the back 9. And so even though it is long, there is still going to be some risk reward. And, we're hoping to see scores in the 10 to 15 under. Minwoo Lee kind of went off last year at 20 under. But I think this is going to be not a birdie fest. I think it's going to be a good test for the better half of the field this week to find a way to give themselves enough opportunities on a long, tough course.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that you brought up, the scoring range that we have seen here. Tony Finau was previously the record holder at this course at 16 under, traditionally hover, like you said, 10 to 15 under. Last year's event was different. Texas was hit by the hurricanes, and that hurricane damaged or removed over 100 trees from this golf course. So it played very, very differently. Now, you and I both know trees that big can't grow in a year. You can obviously plant some bigger ones, but it's still going to not necessarily be the same course, and it's going to allow for different opportunities, different shot making opportunities. No more, we're not going to see Ludwig talking about how they put a tree in at the course just to stop him from going that way when they want him to go that way. It's an event that's going to test players, like you said, and when you look at the stat profile for this venue, it's Brooks Koepka. Like if like you said, it's what Brooks Koepka does well when he's playing his best golf. You got to hit it. You have to hit it far. You don't have to hit it far, but hitting it far certainly makes it a lot easier here. You still want to keep it in play. There's still trouble that you can get yourself into. Like you said, Minwoo showed us that. But the rough isn't super penal. There's not really bunkers. There's not really water. This is just a test of who is striking the ball the best and who can tackle these greens. These greens are going to play really firm. They're going to play really fast. Standard Poa Trivialis overseed. It's what we expect out of that green type at this point. But those runoffs are no joke. I was talking about this on a DFS show I was doing earlier this week, and watching what some of these players are going to do off of these surfaces makes me wish I was a better wedge player, because half the lies they end up in, I'm like, I'm just going to putt it. Give me the good old Texas wedge. It fits right in.
Yeah, it's an incredible amount of confidence that comes with being able to execute wedges off of tight lies, and you get a huge advantage. Like especially players like this, we tell amateurs to putt it from these areas because it minimizes the big score. but you can't get it as close as you can by hitting a real spinny 60 off a tight lie and getting it right in there tight to the hole. So you're right. I actually do kind of wonder in situations like this, how many wedges guys have in their full arsenal. And if they are swapping things in and out, different grinds, different lofts, different bounces to try to get the best setup for themselves as they come to a place like this. I do think if there's one thing about Brooks that I think about, like is most iconic for him, for me, it's like amazingly struck 4 irons from 230 on par threes. And I think that's what you get a lot of here. I put approach 200 as like the most important stat this week. And I think it's interesting because that's going to translate really well to Augusta in a couple of weeks. So I love this. I love this event to give me a preview of guys that can execute on some things that I want 3 weeks from now.
Yeah. And I mean, if you look at some of the flyovers or some of the, marketing photos that they use for the course, you could definitely feel some of that Augusta inspiration on the remodel here. And like you said, it's a great warm-up event. And that's why you see, even though this is a non-signature event, that's why we're getting some bigger names in the field. Scottie, this is essentially a hometown event for him, and anything in Texas, Scottie's pretty much going to play. But, we have I think it's 11 players in the top 40 in the world in the event or in the field this week. So, last year we saw Rory in the field at this event, for the first time. It was the first non-signature event that Rory had played in like a year and a half.
I'm the one thing that I think is a variable that we haven't talked about yet is now that we're in Texas, and I know Florida gets this too, but Texas, you get wind. And you can get some pretty stiff winds, especially in the March timeframe. And so I am curious. I have not looked at the wind forecast yet, but as we're chatting here, we will get into this because I do think it's important for us to have a pretty good feel for what this is going to look like there in the Houston areas.
Yeah, I didn't check out the expected gusting of the winds, but we're looking at a good 13 to 18 mile an hour consistent winds throughout all 4 days. The only thing that popped up in the forecast when I look now, obviously it's Monday evening, things can change, but looking at a little rain Thursday evening, but otherwise, it's just going to be your standard sunny, windy day in Texas. And I don't know, a lot of the YouTube golf channels that I watch, they are Texas based, and you watch these guys play in the wind sometimes, and it's not uncommon for Texas to give you a 3-club wind that's going to hurting or helping in one way. And that kind of understanding of this course and what the wind is doing to your shots is going to be paramount. And that's where I think guys like Tony Finau have had so much success here. Like Finau has had very consistent, strong finishes here. He's a guy who does tend to hit it on the higher side of things, but can flight it when he needs to, understands that he can use the hurt wind to an advantage by hitting a longer club, still getting the height, still getting the spin, and knowing that he can land it softer because the wind's going to kill it a bit. And some of that understanding of the wind can create scoring opportunities for players who traditionally may not be as competitive scoring wise because they know how to play in the wind. It's not like we saw, Minwoo being successful here. You get high winds in Australia and New Zealand as well. So playing there, I'm sure growing up in that environment certainly helps understand how to play a course like this. With my model, there's a couple people from that region that pop. I'm sure you can all guess which two those are just based off of if you've watched golf this year. And then, we see success from the UK players as well, who also have grown up playing in windy conditions, obviously a little bit colder and a little bit wetter than you get in Texas consistently. But, players who have success in the wind and can flight the ball can have a ton of success here.
I like it.
Awesome. So with that being said, it's time to start talking about the plays here. So let's get those clubs twirling and get ready to go. If the video wants to play. Now, before we talk about the plays of the week, I want to give a quick shout out to WannaParlay. WannaParlay creates a fun and exciting competition that connects people. WannaParlay embodies the joy of winning, the heartbreak of almost winning, and all the other emotions that you'll experience during competition. From the brains of two former Kansas State college football players, it's all about stacking legs, competing with real sports lovers like you and I, and getting real cash wins every single day. You can 1,000 extra money and cash out fast. Now, if you are ready to get in the game and flex those parlay legs, download the app for iOS and Android and get a 100% match bonus up to $250 on your deposit when signing up with code IBT. That is code IBT to get a 100% match bonus at WannaParlay. The link for that is in the episode description. Now, Mike, we got to talk about it. The elephant in the room, Scottie Scheffler.
I put it on here because we have to talk about him this week. We haven't really talked about him all year, and you already mentioned this is basically a hometown game for him. I'm not really interested in betting Scottie unless I'm getting him 6-1, maybe.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's really going to happen. So I don't think Scottie's really going to be on my card. But here's the deal: his last 4 starts at the Houston Open have been T2, T2, T9, T2,
T2.
3 top 2s in his last 4 starts. And the thing that's really interesting is that Scottie isn't really playing poorly. He's playing below his baseline, but he is not playing poorly. He has gained strokes in every phase of the game, in every event this year, maybe save for one event and one phase. He is just not his elite normal self. And so it's really trying to figure this out. I think what it is and what it comes through in the stat profile is that his irons seem to be holding him back. And when we say holding him back, it means he is gaining 2 strokes around instead of 6 or 7 or 8.
Right.
And that has always been where he has dominated fields, is where he has taken the pressure off of his short game, and he has just blown past the competition by staying out of trouble. And so I think if you look at our stat profile, the things that he is still doing well this year, he is still first in the field in tee to green. He still plays par 5s really well. He plays par 4s very well. He is still putting pretty well on Poa Trivialis, and he doesn't make a ton of bogeys. He's just not hitting it well enough to dominate these fields. And so, I don't know. What do you want me to say? He's got 3 top 2s in the last 4 years here. He's probably going to be a factor.
Yeah, it's one of those situations where when would it make most sense for Scottie to turn back into Scottie? A hometown event that he's never won. This feels like a Scottie win before we start. And we've said that a lot over the last few years, right? There's a reason we don't talk about Scottie a ton. It's because he's the favorite every single week, and we're not betting Scottie sub 7-8 to 1. It just doesn't financially make sense to do. You have to really, throw some heavy money on there for it to make a lot of sense. And like you said, it's crazy that we're talking about somebody playing poorly this year when they've won a tournament, have 2 other top 5s, and have never finished worse than 24th in a tournament. That's just how do they put it? It's the struggle of being the best, right? If you're not winning everything, people think something is wrong with you. And like you said, it's been his irons this year. He's missing his irons right more frequently than he's not. And with a guy like Scottie, who is such a field player, does things in his own way, in such a unique way, that's going to come back before we recognize it. And this feels like a Scottie win before we get there. Once we start to get into the picks a little bit more, especially my picks, you're going to notice where I'm leaning on the board here. I'm just taking some shots in the dark and hoping they hit.
Yeah, you might as well this week. If it's Scottie or bust, you might as well go and try to get some leverage.
Exactly. So, when we're looking at the board here and you look at the books, there's some players that I have interest in, higher up on the board. I like Jake Knapp at 26 to 1, where you can get him on DraftKings. I like Chris Gotterup at 25 to 1 on DraftKings. Brooks at 29 to 1 is starting to get to a point where I'm kind of interested. When I looked earlier today, even it wasn't that favorable. He started at 25, 26 to 1, 24 to 1 on some books, even getting close to 30 there feels really nice. There's some players who pop on my model in the 30s, but like when it feels like such a Scottie win to me, like I feel like I have to throw those darts to stand really any chance of making a money on an outright. That said, I'm probably going to put more money than I have at any point in the year on placements because I think there is a lot of money to make on placements this week. But when Scottie feels like this big of a lock to win, it's hard for me to invest heavily in some of the mid tier, but I know you have some players in these tiers that you do have some interest in. Starting off Harris English, best odds I was able to find on him earlier today, 45-1, which is on Caesars, and now on FanDuel, 43-1 over on DraftKings. So, that number is a lot more appealing to me, I'll admit, than the 37-1 that you put in originally, which is, where he did start. And obviously he's fallen down the pricing board, which brings him into a place of interest for me.
Yeah, I think you're right. We are throwing a few darts here in the middle of the board just to see if it's not going to be Scottie, like is there someone that I can find and maybe get a few extra dollars out of. Harris English, he's coming off a brutal miscut at the Players. And before that he had 3 straight top 25s. But the thing that I like about Harris is that he's starting to prove that he can win on tough courses in tough events. And that's what we have this week. He had that win at the Farmers last year, which I think really validated a lot of the work that he had done to rebuild his golf swing. And I think he's still doing some things well this year from a stat standpoint that are gonna benefit him here. He's second in my model putting in the last 24 rounds on Poa Trivialis, 10th in short grass scrambling. We've already talked about how big of a deal that's going to be this week. And, with 10 par 5s playing, or with 5 of the 10 par 5s playing at 450 or longer, he's in the top part of my model in par 5 scoring and 175 and 200 plus proximity buckets. So I think it's just like, is Harris English going to give himself enough good looks from those spots to get to 15 under this week? I don't know, but I think he's a guy that I'd look to, that I would trust to be able to hang in there and close it out down the stretch.
Yeah, really the only thing that we've seen kind of falter from his norms this year has been the iron play's just been super inconsistent. But the putter remains strong, gaining strokes consistently with the driver. Wedges are sometimes here, sometimes not. But I mean, he's got a T18 here last year. He putted his mind off last year, struggled with the irons here last year, and still was able to put together a pretty solid finish overall. So it's certainly an interesting play, to say the least. It's one of those plays where it starts to make sense, where it's like, at this price, I'm kind of in. Continuing down the board a little bit, we have former winner Stephan Jaeger, now able to get him, or I should say earlier today, you were able to get him at 80-1. It is not that favorable anymore. It's still 70-1 over on FanDuel, though. So still some favor there. Previous winner here, playing some solid golf of late. What's it about his profile that excites you?
I think he just said the two things that maybe put him in here. One is, it's tough. Previous winners were always so interested to find the next guy that's going to go win an event. And we just talked about Scottie having a ton of success here. Stephan Jaeger rebuilt his game 3 years ago to dominate golf courses like this. It's one of the reasons why he could keep up in a track meet with Scottie Scheffler 2 years ago and actually outlast him. He played really nicely on the weekend at the Valspar. And I'm interested in a player that is playing, that has good course history, has won on this course, and is just pulling some good vibes from 4 days ago into Thursday this week. He's generally strong on long par 4s and 175 or longer. That was enough for me to say I think he's got the right tools. Yep. His driver's always has been a strength the last couple of years, which is what we want to see here. And I like that backdoor top 10 on Sunday at the Valspar.
Yeah. And he's got consistent performances here, outside of the win, a T9, a T11, like he's consistently been at the top of the leaderboard since he really started to rebuild his swing. So certainly a player of interest. It'll be a DFS favorite, I'm sure, of a lot of people this week as well. I actually forgot I did have one player in the higher betting range. So got to talk about him real quickly. And that's Marco Penge. 38-1. Let me confirm that these are still the odds at time of recording. Yep, 38-1 over on DraftKings. But he pops in my model, and for me, it's more just what we saw at the Valspar. We saw finally the Marco Penge that we've been waiting for. He shined pretty much throughout the course, hit his driver extremely far, kept it in the fairway, putt really well, irons were solid. His profile's not going to be the most exciting. He's 20th or 18th in my model. So, upside certainly there. Not the best scorer so far this year. Certainly not the best bogey avoider. Where I have some hope for him, the distance helps. Solid long iron performance in the top third of the field in that number. Top 25 scrambling off of short grass. Top 12 on long par 5 scoring. So certainly some upside here. I'll say it right now. 38-1 is not my favorite number. I would like to see this break 40. If it breaks 40, it's basically an auto bet for me, little half unit throw down there. But just wanted to make sure that I did not forget to talk about him just because he is, a top 20 play in the model. That's got to count for something.
Yeah, he is a fantastic driver of the golf ball, has a ton of length, has been dominating off the tee. Yes, he finished T4th last week at the Valspar. We didn't really get, outside of Fitzy, and that's the reason why he won, no one else seemed to really want to win that golf tournament.
Yep.
And I'm kind of looking at, Marco Penge this year, like so much has been made about his breakthrough into the PGA Tour and how he has, the David of golf swings right now. He's like the Adam Scott of 2026. Everybody's just in love with this guy's move, and it's why he hits it so far. He does have 3 missed cuts on the PGA Tour this year, a T64 at Pebble where we had no cut, and a 4th and a 16th. So the finishes haven't really been there. I kind of don't get the 38-1 price point. And is that all just the Valspar effect? I kind of feel like this should have been 60 or 70.
Yeah, especially looking at the odds for some of the other players. Like, I'll admit, Penge was a name I wrote down and then looked at the odds. Like, I was like, I'm interested here. But then you look and like Adam Scott grades out way better in my model since you brought him up, and you can get him 44-1. Keith Mitchell grades out well in my model, 50-1 on some books. Pearson Cody grades out well in the model, 55-70 on some books. Like, if this number falls, which it has fallen already from open, some books opened him as high as 27-1. If this continues to fall going into Thursday, certainly going to be an interesting option. But right now, it's definitely in hold territory. We're holding here. We're not, jumping all over this play. But like I said, wanted to make sure I did not forget to bring him up. But we're going to continue on down the odds board yet again. And I'm going to be honest with you, folks. You're going to hear some names. You may not know them, but we're going to tell you about them. So the next one up for me in the odds order here is Sudarshan Yellamaraju. Say that 3 times fast. I've had to do it on multiple shows this year because I have been all over this guy, and the guy has shown out. We got a T5 out of him at the Players. Phenomenal iron week, phenomenal putting week, really strong off the tee player. Question for him is just going to really be, what do the wedges look like? That said, he's 3rd in my model for a reason. Top 10 ball striker, top 10 birdies or better, bogey avoidance numbers all look great. The wedge play overall has not been super strong, but he is 18th in the field over the last 24 rounds, scrambling off of short grass, which is what we've talked about. That's what we're going to see perhaps the most of this week. He's almost a top 5 player. He's 6th at 200 plus overall approach proximity. He hits it far too. He's top 25 in the field in driving distance. Like, the profile lines up for a lot of success. And, especially like we were talking about with Marco Penge, like, is it the Valspar effect bumping his odds up the board, knowing that this guy plays T5 at a harder event 2 weeks ago and you can get him at 115-1?
I think that's a great comparison because I this guy has been on my radar as well since the beginning of the year. I really think I'm actually surprised he competed as early in the season as he did, but it's like every week we're getting a little more chatter on Yellamaraju. And I don't know if he's going to win this year, but I think this is great value for the stat profile, especially compared to someone like Penge. And he like this, what this guy needs is a golf course where you can kind of hit it as long as you want and you don't have to really worry how far offline you are. So, and he is very accurate for his length as well, but I think that's a fun bet at 115.
Yeah, this was simply I love the player. He's young. He's not even 25 yet. He's already showing signs of being, a potential high upside player. We've seen him play well on the Korn Ferry Tour where he's won a tournament. Like we've seen the upside already. That T5 at the Players was a bit of a coming out party. I was hyping him up all week on radio, on podcasts, in my article. I was hyping him up. I was like, this guy is poised for a breakout, and we got it. And it felt so good to get that. This number feels disrespectful, and it feels like I have to, even if I had no confidence in him winning this week, I'm still betting it because I have confidence in him. Like maybe nobody else besides his mother.
He probably doesn't know any better to go try to chase down Scottie. And so maybe not winner without Scottie, Sudarshan Yellamaraju.
Yeah, it's certainly an upside play and one that I am very, very intrigued in. Next up, we are going over to one of your plays this week. This picture pained me to put in here. I am a hater of PXG. It is well known for anybody who knows about golf equipment. I'm not and has heard me talk about it before. I'm not a PXG fan. Not at all. Respect them. Have they won a golf tournament on the PGA Tour? Unfortunately, they have. Jake Knapp. But
yeah, Eric Cole.
Yeah.
Here we go. Couple. Chad Ramey. I'll be honest. You really like Yellamaraju. I really don't like Chad Ramey. I'm just not a fan. I don't really care for his volatility. He tends to buoy all of his top finishes with above average putting and short game play. And he's not, he is a very good putter, but it's kind of like the Harry Hall effect. It's like, okay, I'll check in on Chad Ramey like once a year when the long game cooperates. But here's the deal. Like he has actually played pretty well on tough golf courses this year. He has a 22nd at the Farmers. He has a 17th at the Cognizant. He has a 27th at the Players. He's 10th in opportunities from 175 to 200 and 200 plus. And he generally plays long par 4 as well. So if he's going to putt well, which he generally does, and he is showing some signs of life in tough fields, 175 is a fun number to run Chad Ramey out on. The problem is he's not a great driver of the golf ball. He's not particularly long. He does not gain off the tee. And so on a course where we've already talked it up that's going to be long and tough with a lot of wind, I don't know. I like the path actually, like the more I look into it, the path is really hard to see. But maybe this is like at 175 to 1, he's putting out of his mind and he finds a way to hang around on Sunday. But not a huge Chad Ramey fan. Just when you're looking for guys that are almost touching 200, it's possible.
Certainly. And when I look at him in my model, it's like tee to green, red number. Ooh. Ball striking, red number. Ooh. Birdies are better, red number. Ooh. But then it's green across the board from there. Like the bogey avoidance has been solid. Top 35 on long par 5s, solid enough scrambler, great putter on the surface. Long iron plays not bad. He is in the top half of the field in driving distance over his last 24 rounds. So, there's parts of the game that make sense. And it feels like, given the profile, like you said, he buoys it mostly on the putting success. If he can hit it far enough without getting it into the rough and the irons cooperate for a couple days, like, it wouldn't shock me.
You could do worse
to see him in the top 25 of this tournament, which is not something I say about Chad Ramey often or ever. Let's be honest here. Continuing on down the board, Isaiah Salinda, 300 to 1. You did put the disclaimer in there. He's is one of your Calcutta guys.
Yeah, he's one of my Calcutta guys. I love the upside with Salinda in general, which is why I bought him cheap on a year-long Calcutta. I typically don't bet these guys because I got so much upside in that pool. But I'm not the first person on the internet to be talking about Isaiah Salinda this week.
We're not.
He has had Pat Mayo is backing Salinda as one of his picks as an outright play. 300 to 1 is incredible. He has not really had a great year. He's got 3 missed cuts. His best finish is a top 30, but he did finish 11th here last year. So there's maybe a few vibes for Salinda at Memorial Park, and he is the best driver of the golf ball in the field based on the conditions that I put in here. He can flat out pummel it, and we've talked about how that Brooks Koepka style of play, like sometimes the path to victory is just to mash the ball as hard as you can. He plays long par fours very well, and he actually, with all that brawn, actually does play the game pretty straight up. I have him top 3rd in putting on Poetriv and 3-putt avoidance, which is nice to tack on here when you have 7,500 square foot greens and a lot of undulation. You know, you're going to have, it's like Augusta. You got to have guys that are going to not lose strokes on the greens. So 300 to 1 is a fun number for Isaiah Salinda. If you want to see a guy just launch moonshots off the tee, this is the guy to follow this week.
Absolutely. And you know what? This is a great transition too, because if we're going to talk about players where I'm going in here completely off the vibes, Alejandro Tosti, 360 to 1. Dude's played here twice and went T2, T5. And, you know, we've talked about this before on the show. Like, okay, was he coming into this event in really good form? Or is this just a course that he's comfortable at? 2025, when he plays T5 here, he was coming in off of 3 straight miscuts. 2024, when he was the runner-up here, miscut, T75 at the Valspar. And then comes in here and finishes T2. Like, there's some, like, yes, he hasn't won here. I'm calling this man a horse for the course. It's like him and Scottie. Like, these guys just play this course phenomenal. Even though they haven't won here, they just do something well enough to play themselves into contention at this event. And Tosti is a guy, you look at him in my model and you're like, what the hell are you talking about? He's 121st. It just doesn't make sense. But the guy just is comfortable here. And sometimes that's all that matters. Like, the only thing in the profile that's even green is his par 5 scoring is top 20. Strokes gained par 5, 601 to 650 yards. He is top half of the field in driving distance, but it's not like he hits it a mile. He does hit it far, but it's not spectacularly far.
Yeah, I have him 32nd in the tour on driving distance this year. Do you know how tall Tosti is?
5'8",
5'6". This dude packs a punch, and he's funny too. Did you see with the players last week with the Caddie bibs could put their own custom message on the back of the bib? You know what Tosti said?
What?
I need a wife.
What a legend. That's amazing. Was it him that was it the hole-in-one in the practice round of an event last year and jumped in the water?
I was going to say he drove the green on 13 at Valhalla, the island green. I think it's 13. The island green that's up on this like stone ledge. It was like a 325 carry to land it on an island green and hold the green. Pretty impressive. This dude he's a fun dude to watch.
Yeah, it wasn't one of the majors, but it was the players. He aced 17 in the practice round and then jumped in the water. Yeah, and I think just called his practice round there. So like, it's purely vibes.
It's fun.
It's vibes. 360 to 1. $1 gets you 360 smackaroos. You know how many Pokemon cards you can buy with $360 these days? Not as many as you could 20 years ago, but that's a different story for another day. But I'm going to tell you right now, he's not even the farthest odds that we're going to talk about here.
Keep going.
Because you have a guy here. Or do I have a guy here?
You might. I think I'm out. I think Salinda was my longest.
Yep. So this is me. And every time I have ever hyped this guy up, which is like 3 times in my life ever, it has bit me right in the ass. But I don't care. Trey Mullinax, 750 to 1. We ride, baby.
No comment.
That's what I expected here. But let me talk to you a little bit here. So I ran the model, right? As we do. We run this thing every week. We find the guys that we like to bet on, throwing DFS lineups. He finished 8th in my model. Wasn't expecting that. 14th in the field over the last 24 rounds, strokes gained tee to green. 14th in the model, last 24 rounds, strokes gained ball striking. 6th in birdies or better. 36th in putting. Top 25 in overall approach, 200 plus. 5th in driving distance. There's crazier plays at 750 to 1.
Question.
Yes.
When were those 24 rounds played?
That's a great question. I don't,
because it wasn't this year.
Yep, it's going back. I think I put it back a couple of years. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Yeah. No, he did play this fall. He played in most of the events this fall. Utah, Butterfield,
T25 at the RSM.
T25 the RSM.
Yeah. So we've gotten them. They're within a calendar year. There is enough upside at 750 to 1.
Sure. But what has he been doing? Because he's not playing Corn Ferry. Is he just why is he playing here? Is he from Texas? Is that is this a local event? Is he a sponsor's exemption?
I believe he's in on an exemption. Let me confirm that here. He's from Alabama originally. Let me look here.
Sure. I mean, it'll be super fun. Trey Mullinax, he's in the mix, the 750 to 1. I agree. I never get this.
What's a dollar? Right. What's a dollar? $1 to win 750? I'm in. I mean, it's obviously it's a long shot for a reason, right? We're absolutely not expecting Trey Mullinax to win. I'm not recommending him to be in your DraftKings lineups, your FanDuel lineups. Nothing about this makes a ton of sense. He is in on a sponsor's exemption to this event. So maybe he does some work with Texas Children's Hospital, which the vibes, doing stuff for the kids. We can't complain.
Are we going longer?
I believe that's as long as we go.
Okay. Just a shout out. Aaron Wise in the field this week. He will be further down the odds board than Trey Mullinax, but I hope he does something.
1,000 to 1.
He has been he would be. Aaron Wise has been in and out of the game the last few years. I can't say I was a huge fan, but he had a stretch there where he was really competing with some of the best in the game, and he's suffered a number of mental health setbacks, I think, over the last few years, some other injuries. And so I hope that this maybe for his sake is the start of something good.
Absolutely. He's got a T11 and a T22 here. He's played this course well in the past. And obviously, like you said, a lot has changed for him over the last few years, but anytime, you have those comeback stories of guys, especially on the mental health side of things, it's something very near and dear to my heart. So anytime you can get something like that, it certainly makes it, more exciting to talk about him and to root for him. There's some guys in the field that I'm going to admit I'm not rooting for. There's some guys in the field I don't like. Aaron Wise is not one of them. We are on Aaron's side this week. But guys, that has been everything for us this week. Mike, why don't you remind the people where they can find you?
Yeah, you can find me here with the guys, 19th hole in between media, as well as Reading the Green on X. We do some consensus rankings every week, so check that out.
And you can follow me on Twitter at Parry_FF. If you like daily fantasy sports on the PGA side of things, you can check out my work over at Fantasy Alarm. Make sure to join the In Between Media Golf family yet again to get our full betting card every single week. That is $3.99 a month or $36 for the year. It's one less Pro V1 for you to lose. If you spend it on us, you can make the money back to buy yourself as many Pro V1s as you want. So you might as well just sacrifice the one that you were going to hit into the drink anyway. Make sure you subscribe to the channel since we are new over here on the 19th hole. Make sure you turn that notification bell on. But guys, we will see you all at our next tee time.